So we are about to start the Face Youth Mental Health Seminar. On behalf of Face Youth, I want to welcome all of us to today's event, which is the second edition of the Face Youth Mental Health Awareness and Stigma Reduction Initiative Seminar. As some of us who joined the edition for last month, the maiden edition last month, this is the second edition, and we will be having series of it each month going forward. For those who joined us last month, I believe you learned a lot from the session. So today, the second edition also promises to be as insightful and as educative as the first one. For today's seminar, we have invited two renowned female mental health professionals. This is to commemorate the International Women's Day and also Mother's Day that were all celebrated in this month of March. So the men do bear with us. We are not trying to, discriminate, but it's just in commemoration of all, the beautiful women that was being celebrated this month. So our two speakers are in the person of Mrs. Priyanka, PS, and Mrs. Tega Omogo. Give a welcome remark briefly. So this event, as we know, is being organized by Face Youth and in keeping with his charitable initiative of promoting educational and other initiatives that will be of use to our adults and youths, and by extension, in particular, this seminar was designed to help both the youth and their parents to get through mental health issues and challenges which have been heightened and increased as a result of the pandemic situation everyone has found themselves in across the world. So just before we move on, I want to make us aware of a few information and rules. So this seminar is being recorded and is also being broadcast live on YouTube. So by remaining logged in the session, you are consenting to the recording. And but if you want your face not to show, you might want to close your video so that your image will not appear anywhere on the recording. So as you would have observed, all attendees are muted as they join in. This is to help us reduce the noise during the seminar. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentations by both speakers. But if you have any question that comes to your mind in the course of the presentations, please feel free to type it in the chat box so we can pick it up from there during the question and answer session. But because we've got these two presentations, I would suggest that maybe you want to wait till the end of the presentations, as in the speakers have all given their presentations, to ask your question or type it in the chat box, because it might be likely that the speakers might touch on what you might want to ask, the questions you might want to ask. So during the question and answer session, you can either type your question in the chat box, or you might want to raise your hand using the raise your hand function in the chat box. And then we can unmute you so you can ask your question. Also, if you don't want to type in the question, you can type in the chat box that you want to ask your question and we will unmute you then. As indicated in the publicity that was sent out for the seminar, there will be a $50 voucher prize to be won at the end of the session. So to stand a chance to win the voucher, you need to stay to the end of the seminar, because that will be when we will spin the wheel to see who is the lucky winner for the voucher. And I think that's all we need to bear in mind. So like I said, just to give a bit intro, today the focus of the seminar today will be following on from the discussions of last month. And this edition is going to be around a better understanding of mental health and psychological interventions for stress-related mental health in young people. In addition to mental health first aid and substance abuse, and discussions around or promote how we can promote discussions about mental health to reduce the stigma for young people with mental health issues. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Priyanka. To give you a bit of a background, Priyanka is an integrative psychotherapist and a researcher in Bangalore, India. She has over 10 years experience in counseling, psychotherapy, and healthcare services. She's published a lot of research papers in international conferences. She's a consultant psychotherapist at various institutions, and she works as a CEO at an Unwind Central. In terms of her educational background, she has a BSc and MSc in counseling and psychotherapy, and a MPhil in psychology. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much. So let me firstly share the. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay. Um, so welcome everyone today. Uh, I'm Priyanka. I'm working as a counseling psychologist at mainly Unwind Central and other institutes as the anchor already introduced. So firstly, I thought I'll talk a bit about what is mental health and what is health because it's not very clearly understood. So firstly, I'll be talking about mental health awareness and followed by psychological interventions and further followed by awareness activities, awareness exercises. I hope I'm going to be able to cover within the time we have. So that's the plan for today. So going further, so this is the definition of health by WHO. It's defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, which is just not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Understanding mental health further, it affects how we think, feel, and act. And it also helps determine how we handle our stress, relate to others, and make our lifestyle choices. Further, it's very important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence through adulthood. Three words, that is mental health, mental hygiene, and wellness, are the terms which describes the absence of mental illness. Mental status has two possibilities, that is to go in two directions. One is being healthy and functional. The other one is being illness or having a disorder or being dysfunctional. Moving further, the main thing here is we need to understand what are the red flags that can help us understand as early warnings or for any of us to understand if we are having any of mental health issues. These would be that. Observing any eating or sleeping too much or too little, pulling away from people and usual activities, having low or no energy, feeling numb or like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless or hopeless, smoking, drinking, or using drugs more than usual, which is when observed. Further, it's feeling unusually confused, forgetful, being on edge, angry, upset. Can you hear me?
Yeah, carry on.
Go.
Okay,
Go
just to give a let me just let them know who you are, your amazing profile. So, um, just to say sorry about the technical hitches we've had with Priyanka and in giving her presentation. We sincerely apologize for that. I mean, I suppose we all know that at this tech age, I mean, nothing is it's certain. Things could, happen midstream. Apparently, we've just experienced that now. So, but hopefully, Priyanka will be able to sort it out and come back after we've had do her presentation. So we want to welcome our second speaker, Tega Omogo. She's an author, she's a transformational speaker, she's a life coach, and a substance abuse counselor. She's an interventionist. She's a mental health practitioner and a teens mentor, and who uses her past experience to help mold the youth and the young people she comes in contact with. Also, to mention that she's a graduate of guidance and counseling and a certified therapist with the US-based Team FAR group. She's also an SOBCA certified mental health first aider and a certified graduate of Transformers Leadership Academy. Tega is the project coordinator of Back to Light Foundation, a foundation aimed at helping drug use victims go from active addiction to sobriety in terms of, getting them back to sanity, alongside health experts to sanitize our environment and keeping our youths out of the streets. She's also the chief executive of Tega Omogo Consults. So Tega, over to you.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. I hope I'm audible enough. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I was going to just sit and listen to her and learn a lot, but hey, I've been put on the spot, so it's fine. Okay, so thank you, Ify. Thank you, Nkechi, for having me. So I'll just see if I can share my slides now from the top. I hope it doesn't do the same thing to me. Okay.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so can you see my slides now?
Yes, very well, we can, yes.
Okay, so the mental health first aid. So we're talking basically on mental health first aid. That's where my core is, even though my core is substance use and substance abuse, drug use and substance abuse. What is mental health? Mental health, like we know, is like they say, there is no health without mental health. It's a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her potential, can cope with the normal stresses of everyday life, and work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community. Sometimes people are able to say that, when you have everybody goes through some form of issues or the other. Yes, we have challenges generally in life, but when it begins to affect your day-to-day activities, when it begins to affect the way you reason, it begins to affect the way you would do things normally, then you know that you have an unhealthy mental health state. What makes up our mental health? Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Our thoughts influence our emotions, which in turn influences our behaviors and influences our speech, and that's what makes up our mental health. It comes mostly from our thoughts. Many times we're faced with challenges, but how we interpret these challenges in our feelings, and then it now affects our actions, are the things that we need to look out for. How do we measure mental health? If you can't measure a thing, you're not able to manage it. So deviance. Well, how do you measure mental unwellness? Deviance is the state of diverging from usual or acceptable standards, especially in social behavior. When you're deviating, more or less, in layman's English, when you're deviating from usual or acceptable standards. Dysfunction, abnormality, or impairment in the operation of a specified system, when things are not actually working the way they should. That is what you call dysfunction, an abnormality. Distress, when you're suffering, when there's misery, agony, it means the state of being in trouble. Mean the state of feeling like you are in trouble, temporary cause of great physical or mental strain and stress. Danger, possibility of harm or injury. What causes mental unwellness? There are different things that cause it. Just being a human being is enough to cause mental unwellness. If you stay in my country, in Nigeria, just being Nigerian is enough to cause mental unwellness, because by the time you have to deal with all sorts of things, you have to start thinking of how to, deal with all sorts. You deal with your landlord, you deal with work stuff, you deal with social stuff, you do even in church where you think that everything's supposed to be together. There's stuff there that actually just cause issues. I wish I had a lot more time. All I've talked about how even in a place like church, you can get into having anxiety issues and depression. And because of this, we keep talking about the fact that, even when they say people go to church, when you have mental health issues, someone will say, go to your pastor, let your pastor help you. I'm always telling them that, can we try to make sure that pastor is also qualified to do this professionally? Because not just because they can't do it, but because we know that it's not merely a spiritual thing. They're not going to, in Nigeria, they said lay hands on you and then everything flies out of your body. It's not just about that. There's a lot that you need to know, all sorts of things. It can be trouble. It can be your health issues. It can be doubt. It can be relationship issues. Anything can cause it. Work stress. There are two types of stress experienced by human beings. There's chronic stress, which is the type of stress that can be particularly harmful to the brain because of the hormones and the chemicals referred to as glucocorticoids. And stress can really actually tell in your physical body. And there's also acute or emergency induced stress, which helps us to fight the danger or flee it. Intense stress lasts a short period of time, but it can rapidly exhaust you, even to the point of triggering anxiety attacks or state of shocks. Sorry, I think this network. Okay, so we're fine. How does stress cause anxiety and depression? Stress is a negative emotion that occurs as individuals try to adjust and deal with environmental circumstances that can disrupt or threaten to disrupt their daily functioning. In simple terms, stress is just reaction to change. It can be positive or it can be negative, and it can affect your body and your mind. When the danger alarm is turned on, it produces a response, a psychological response called the fight or flight reaction. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know how long I've been speaking.
No, carry on. I think, yeah. But I mean, obviously, you don't have all the time. I think you have just about another 15 minutes, and then yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what are the effects of stress? For the sake of this, we're talking about, mental stress, mental effects. So this is anxiety, depression, anger, there's frustration, there's low self-esteem, mood swings, irritability, memory loss, lack of concentration, lack of motivation and creativity. A person diagnosed with major depression will have at least 5 of these symptoms. I think Priya was already talking about those earlier, so I may not even delve into that so very deeply. Depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day, marked diminished interest or pleasure in activities most of the day, nearly every day, changes in appetite, resulting in weight loss, gains or relating to dieting, changing in sleep patterns, loss of energy or increased fatigue, restlessness or irritability, feelings of anxiety, feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness or helplessness, inappropriate guilt, difficulty thinking, concentrating or making decisions, or thoughts of death and attempts of suicide. I had a client once, very recently, that has been, because I like I said, my core is substance use. And so that's what they come to me for. And so when he came, I keep telling them that when you have to deal with, when people say, just get him to stop doing drugs, that's not the point. Many times, not getting the person, getting to the root of the problem is like putting a Band-Aid on an infected open wound. You're going to have to deal with what caused the infection in the first place before you have to treat it and then have to deal with the wound in itself. So many times we know that these are the things that cause the substance use because it's a form of escape. Most people are trying to escape from their psychological issues, their pains, their stresses. And so they now start to look for other things to help them deal with their everyday stressors. Life is generally designed to throw us challenges, but they tell you, take out the stressor and everything is fine. Anyway, we'll still get there. So, like I was saying, I was dealing with this boy, and then in talking about the drug use, I found that I gave him a checklist. We're just trying to get to his mental health. So I gave him a checklist and made him, tick out what it was that he's been dealing with. And by the time this boy was done, we realized that he's dealing with this chronic depression. It's not even mild. And he's been dealing with it for as long as he was in primary school. Primary school for us here in Nigeria, for you, I think that's elementary school. Yes, maybe in the UK, if you're not in Nigeria, that's elementary school. And so this is how long he's dealt with this. And he's been dealing with it for that long. And nobody's ever been able to just tell him that, look, this is what you're dealing with. But everybody keeps saying stuff to him like, snap out of it, snap out of it. You can't snap out of this. You can't. You can't. The signs of depression don't look the same on everyone. It doesn't look the same on anyone. And for adults and children, it's the same. It can vary a bit, but many times, along with the feeling of sadness, you can notice that among children under 12, it might be loss of interest in fun activities, changing eating habits, weight loss, clinginess. When you see that your child is unnecessarily being clingy, even though the child has no reason to be, especially when the child hasn't been like that before, then you know that there's something that is going on. Anxiety, difficulties with family members, and avoiding school and social activities. Then you begin to realize that there's something going off here. Many factors can trigger depression in children. Domestic violence, parental depression, divorce and other family stressors, too many things, like when you're moving a child from school to school to school, or like in Africa, what we do many times, they'll say maybe the dad can't take care of the child, and the parents are incapable of, bringing the child up, and so they will take you to the house of an uncle and say, let this child stay here so that he can have better education, so that he can feed better, so that he can be better taken care of. Unfortunately, sometimes the child is not necessarily looking for better care. The child is just looking for connection to their parent. And so such things are always a problem for children. It can cause depression. Someone I'm working with, same thing. He's gone from school to school to school, and it is a problem for him. Now, also, another thing is moving to a new school or a new town and the loss of a pet, the loss of a family member or a friend. Teenagers also have mood swings, and this is normal because, I mean, it's the hormones that's all over the place. So you need to also watch out for mood changes that last longer than a few weeks. Because you might say, oh, he's going through, the teenage stage. So there are things that are going on with him. No, it's just a phase, he'll pass through it. But when you realize that this mood is actually stretching longer than necessary, you should actually look a bit closer. When you see that they begin to feel like they don't want to have anything to, when they're losing interest in school or losing interest in stuff that they really had interest in before, and then self-harm, and then they begin to avoid school. They don't, nowadays, it's just crazy. They just don't want to go to school. And instead of our parents to keep trying to find out what's going on with you, why are you just all of a sudden deciding that school doesn't make so much sense to you? They're just forcing it down their throat. You must go to school. What is in the school that is causing your child to withdraw, to be anxious and to be depressed? There has to be something there. So these are the things that we need to look at. Many of the same life issues that affect young children can lead to depression in teenagers. And in addition, depression in teens may arise from pressures to fit in, succeed, mature hormonal issues. And then if not dealt with, they can continue this thing even as they get into adulthood. And by the time you get into adulthood, if you have not even started to understand how to grasp coping skills, proper coping skills, you will still have your fair share of life drama. And if you haven't dealt with those things as a young child, it doesn't get better. It only compounds. And these are the things that make people just continue in those stages. And then by the time they get to they're having relationship issues, they're having work-related issues, they're having poverty issues, trauma, adverse child experiences. There are many things that they've gone through in their childhood. And adverse child experiences are things that have happened to you from when you were younger up until age 18. Those are things that affect you and how you now relate with people generally. You may think that the way you're relating with someone is normal. But when you go through the checklist for adverse child experiences, you realize the reason why you do some of the things that you do. Those experiences have shaped how you react to life now. So After a while, adults age 30 to 60 tend to have a lot going on that trigger depression. Aging parents, financial stress, fear of old age, isolation, midlife crisis, menopause, fertility issues, major illnesses. You see, many times we don't really take care of ourselves when we're younger. It's only when we now start getting a bit older, we realize that, oh, our health is actually, failing. And then when you now start getting to that age, somehow it starts to get to you. I have an older brother who always had life easy for him from when he was a child. All of a sudden, he had an ailment. Okay, no, before then, he was working with a very good oil company. He had he was making millions of naira before he even turned 30. By the time he lost the job, he started a business, he lost the business. Somehow things just went downhill. And then he was finding ways to cope, but I think he didn't come out to talk about his issues, his depression. It was mild at the time. Think now that I'm in this field, I know that the depression was mild at the time. At that time, we probably thought, okay, no, he's just been unhappy because of the events that have happened with him. Unfortunately, he now had a health crisis. He had a health issue. When he had that health issue, it compounded everything. It just made it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Everything came to head, and then the guy started having crazy anxiety attacks. We're still dealing with it, we're working with it, thankfully. Maybe that's the reason why I even got into this field in the first place, to start working with him and seeing how that goes. So because he's not been able to deal with coping skills or build coping skills while he was younger, it became a bit more difficult for him to be able to be more resilient now that he has major issues and he's much older. So these are the things that we need to know. Okay, psychological interventions. These are activities used to modify behavior or emotional state of feelings. They may have different applications, and the most common use is the treatment of in the treatment of mental disorder is psychotherapy. And we know what psychotherapy is, is helping the psychological, how do I break this down now? Anyway, psychotherapy. There are 4 types of interventions: simple, classical, family system, and crisis. I'm trying to rush so badly. Anyway, so this is what it is. Okay, now psychological, one of the things that I know that people need to learn is coping skills. You need to find how to cope with stuff. And it means that you need to find healthy ways of dealing with your issues, not because there are healthy and unhealthy ways of dealing with stuff. You need to find healthy ways because it will help your mental state. Because if you allow yourself go, if we all allow ourselves go, all of us will go downhill very quickly. It takes nothing at all to actually go down that way. The thing is, just a few hours ago, last year, I had a procedure done, and then I was trying to, it failed. And so as devastated as I was, because it's something I had waited for quite a bit, as devastated as I was, I was going to sink very low. But at the time, I realized that I had started doing a Facebook live, videos on Facebook and on YouTube, where I talk about substance use and all of that. So at the time, I checked the time, I was really, really, they tell you that depression can actually is equivalent to being physically disabled. I really did not even know how to drag myself from where I was. But I realized that there were people that were looking up to me. There were people that were waiting for my video. In fact, someone had sent me a message, "When are you coming on today?" And so the fact that I knew that someone was waiting for me, I just told myself, okay, get up, put makeup on your face and go and get this done. And so I came on because I had that coping skill, and because it helped me realize that I have a responsibility to teach people. I have a responsibility to talk about drug use. So I was able to get into teaching mode. And as soon as I got into teaching mode, it helped me at that moment not to dwell in my pain. And then afterwards, I began to, self-talk. I started to learn things. I started to exercise. I started to give myself the talk and tell myself that I will get through this. I refuse to dwell in there. At some point, I actually almost got to use medication. At some point, I also had PTSD. I was very ill a while before. In fact, I went to, okay, that's for the stigma part. I went to see, I was in a hospital and I saw a doctor and I said, look, since I came out of hospital, I was in hospital for 3 weeks. I've been having anxiety attacks. And she said to me, I will give you the phone number of the psychiatrist. And I think you should talk to the psychiatrist. And that was it. I just told myself, psychiatrist, these people think I'm mad. And that was it. I never went back. Unfortunately, if I had gone to see the psychiatrist, it would have helped me. I would have come out of this faster than I came out of it. So we'll still get to that part in the stigma part. Recognize the emotion. Recognize the emotion. What is it that you're dealing with? Are you feeling anger? What's causing all of this? Because in recognizing this emotion, you can actually trace what has caused this emotion. What happened? I do that quite a lot now. I'll just ask myself, okay, what happened? Why am I feeling like this? What's the reason that is getting me here? What can I do about what is happening now? Recognize it. Sometimes, many times, we don't want to even deal with it. It is said that we would rather die than think. I can't remember the statistic. It said only 2% of the people think something, then maybe 97 of the people think they're thinking, and then another percentage would rather die than think. Sit still. Recognize the emotion. Trace it back. Go back to when you started feeling like this and begin to ask yourself the salient questions that you need to be able to get out of there. Because when you go for therapy, you are going to have to even talk about this. So this is going to help even in journaling. I didn't talk about journaling. It helps you in journaling. You can write down your thoughts so that when you have to get to talk to a therapist or a counselor, you can find a way to talk about this. Like I said, trace the source, express the emotions, and try to let it go. Okay, our behavior is expressed in our actions, antecedents, what happened before, what are the thoughts, what are the emotions behind this, what happened before, behavior, how did I react, what did I say, what did I do, consequence, what happened as a result of my behavior. Recently, I was asking someone if people can remember stuff that happened to them as young as 2 years old or 3. And then I realized that I was asking my coach, and he said to me, unless it was an emotion was attached to that particular, event, chances are you won't remember. So if there is an emotion that was attached to it, most likely you will remember. So what were the consequences of your behavior, how you behave, what happened to you? Ways to maintain good mental health: get enough sleep, eat right, exercise, take care of your basic emotional and physical needs, staying connected socially, stopping to assess how things are going in life, and managing your stressors in life. Let's quickly talk mental health first aid, and then we'll talk stigma quickly. Those two are quite important to me. Mental health first aid: assess the risk for suicidal harm. That's if you're the one that is helping someone, because 1 in 4 people actually have, at one point in their life, will go through some mental health issues. The first time I heard this thing, I didn't know what that meant until I felt very ill. And then I came out, I started having the anxiety attacks. I didn't think I would ever be because they used to say in my family, I'm the youngest of 8, that I'm the least suicidal person there is. So in fact, when there was a time they were checking blood pressure, and then I went to check my blood pressure. My sister told me, said, look, don't bother to check your blood pressure. Stuff don't happen to you. Nothing bothers me really until I started getting older, and then life started bringing its different pressures and stressors. And hey, so we need to also understand that if 1 in 4 people will have mental health issues at one point in their life, there are 22 of us in this place, which means that at this very point, there are probably 5 people that are dealing with one mental health issue or the other. And these are mental health issues schizophrenia, there's depression, there's anxiety, there are panic disorders, there is bipolar. There's all sorts. You need to just research and know all the mental health disorders there are. And one point or the other, at least 5 people in this place is going through that right now. The rest of us will probably go through that. And please don't say God forbid. Anyways, like I was saying, with mental health issue, mental health first aid, you need to assess for risk of suicide or harm. That's if you're going to help someone that's going through this. The reason why it's important that people have the basic mental health first aid is because you never know when you are going to be the one to help someone. And the reason is 1 in 4 people. So it could be a member of your family. If there are 4 of you in your house, it could be you, it could be your parent, it could be your sibling, it could be anybody. The LG action plan is approach, assess, and assist with any crisis. Assess the risk of suicide or harm, or look for signs of trauma or high anxiety. Listen non-judgmentally, because many times we don't listen critically to people. What we're doing is that we're listening to respond. We're listening to give advice. We're listening to, just to let it be like, I'm talking to you, but that's not what it is. Listen to the person. Most times people just want to be heard. And there's a saying that says that when you are heard, your healing begins. When people begin to feel heard, they begin to heal. So just listen non-judgmentally, give assurance and the information that you have. If you don't have any information, just listen, but give assurance for sure. Encourage the person to get the appropriate professional help. The key word here is professional help. Encourage self-help and other support strategies, because help is important when it comes to stuff like this. Many times there's a boy I'm working with now, he'll tell you stuff like, I just feel like I'm alone. In fact, he actually was going to tattoo on his neck alone. And I'm like, why would you say a thing like that? And he says this is exactly how he feels. And I believe, and the truth is his feelings are valid. The fact that he's around people does not necessarily mean that he's not alone. So his feelings are valid. So you need to understand that, encourage them, let them know that, look, I am here. Social support is very important. That's what first aid actually helps with, social support, because when you encourage them to also get help, they have your social support and they have professional support. Now let's talk stigma very quickly. Stigma, if 1 in 4 people, and I think it's the same in Nigeria, it's the same in the US, and I think in the UK as well. If 1 in 4 people are suffering from some sort of mental health issue, according to the World Health Organization today, that means that it will take its turn. That means that it could be me today, I could get through mine, and it could be you tomorrow, which means that it is something we should be having conversations about, loud conversations. I don't understand the reason why people keep these things under wraps. Anyway, sorry, I take that back. I understand why people keep these things, because I have gone through it. Because when they told me to go and talk to that psychiatrist, the first thing that came to my head was, these people think I'm mad. Now, I told you about my brother earlier. And then in the rest of the family, when things are going, when people don't understand why he's acting the way he's acting, and I'm telling them, look, he's going through anxiety attacks, and I know he's going through depression as well because of some of the symptoms. He takes out 5, more than 5, in fact. So I know for a fact that this is what's going on, but my family members don't seem to want to understand the part of mental health. They just think that what's going on with this guy? Unfortunately, they probably have gone through this. They probably coped better because they have better coping skills. He probably doesn't have those coping skills for this particular mental health disorder that he's going through. So because of this, he doesn't think that anybody else will understand. But so when he talks to me, he says, I know that you will understand this. That's why I talk to you. He's very well now, by the way. Very well. He's doing fantastically well. This happens to many people. So you always think that it's something that if somebody else hears about, they will make fun of you. It happened with me. I didn't want anybody to know. I was so afraid. In fact, my husband was in the house with me. He didn't have a clue what I was going through. And I did not want to tell him for fear that he would look at me and think, oh, this girl is losing her mind. Unfortunately, we all go through this. If everybody at one point or the other realizes that the next person is going to go through this, we should be able to talk about this very, very freely. Thank you very much. I believe that my time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I hope I made some sense. I'm honored that you gave me your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Wow. I just want to say thank you for that amazing presentation, Tega. It was really packed with a whole lot of information, knowledge, and what I say, personal experience and expertise as well. Thank you so much. In fact, just to pretty much like recap on what you've just downloaded for us. So obviously it was more about mental health and first aid, pretty much from understanding what mental health is. You said it's essentially a state of well-being, and also as people may not know, mental health basically is what makes up our is made up by our thoughts, emotions, and so we might think, oh, what's this whole thing about mental health? But it's made up of things which, if we don't think about them, they're actually what makes it happen. And you said, how do we measure it? Through deviance, behaviors, dysfunctionality, abnormality, stress, and people exhibiting signs of feeling of they're in danger. And then you went on to explain the causes of mental health or mental unwellness. And then you mentioned that actually that's essentially like the state of fact that we are alive, could cause mental unwellness, which, to be honest, I think it is true, because like you pointed out, just living in Nigeria is enough to get you mad, actually. So yeah, the state of being, alive is enough to cause some mental unwellness. But of course, there's some light and hope in the horizon that's not the end of the world. Yeah, there is a way to deal with it, because much as it could bring about stress, anxiety, and depression, but then there are ways of for psychological intervention, like you pointed out, to help us deal with those situations, which I think you rightly termed coping skills, and then give us some like first-hand experience and example, which is very insightful, because I think it's you kind of drove the matter home by the practical examples you gave, because some people feel that mental health is just for certain kinds of people, but actually everyone is susceptible to it. It's just a case, like you said, how much of the coping skills do you have, and how much of the support do you have? So it's key to recognize, like you said, recognize the emotions, and then begin to help, it helps you to trace where all those feeling of anxiety, feeling of stress and depression came from. Because like they say, when you know the source of a problem, it's half solved. When you don't know the source, obviously you're still living in an illusion as to how to begin to deal with your problem. So that sort of makes sense, that when you recognize, acknowledge the emotion you're feeling, recognize it exists, and then it will help you to trace the origin, and voila, your problem is already half solved. That makes so much sense. And then you went on to make us aware that good health, obviously, how do we maintain it? To maintain it, obviously, we would need to be aware of the fact that there are issues which we don't need to sweep under the carpet, but try to seek help when they crop up. And then you moved on to mental health first aid. I think that's very key. I mean, you said it's the ALGI action plan. To be honest, I think it's something which probably I'll go and make a note of it somewhere, because we are all in a situation where maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your friend, you never really know who you might meet, and you'll be in a position to at least give the initial help, to support them before they go down the drain, by helping them, if you can be able to access, oh, is this tending towards suicide, and then also not be judgmental when they tell you things, and also to give some reassurances and encourage them to seek appropriate professional help, and also encourage them, to self-help and then seek support. And what a beautiful way to end, by giving us that practical example of what Stigma can do, that it can make us flee, and or instead of us standing to fight it because we are thinking, oh, I'll be stigmatized because they will think I'm mad. But actually, who knows, if you speak up, what help you're gonna get. Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. You're on.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I think in a way it's good because what happened was good because I can use the same example to talk about stress, which is one of the topics that I'll be talking about. Anyways, moving further from where I started, you want me to start again?
I think pretty much what you mentioned just before you went off where the what I say, the interest, which I think maybe to an extent Tega covered off. So maybe you just start from where you stopped. Yes.
Sure. So these are the early warnings which I spoke about, and these are the further warnings or red flags that we can look at actually. So basically, yelling and fighting in the families or with friends, which is unusual or which is usually not seen by how you have been over the years, or experiencing extreme mood swings that cause problems in relationships, or having persistent thoughts or memories that you can't get out of your head, which is called rumination. Like, you get caught up in the same circle again and again and again. You get caught up in the same thing. It comes back again and again. Doesn't feel like there's a solution to it. Or you hear voices or you believe things that are not true, which happens around you or maybe even in your head. Thinking of harming yourself or others. This happens when you see only one option in a given situation. Like, there is only one option to harm yourself and you don't see another way out, whereas you're seeking a solution or a way out. Inability to perform any daily tasks. It could be any self-care or getting to work, completing tasks at school with kids and other things. So what would be the characteristics of healthy people, with a healthy mindset? Having healthy self-esteem, accepting imperfections in ourselves and in others, altruistic, having sense of control over our lives, and demonstrating social competence in relationships, able to rely on others, not being overwhelmed by emotions. And even if you're being overwhelmed by emotions, learning to cope and manage, exactly like what was talked earlier, trying to maintain a positive outlook on life. At the same time, I would also say a positive, realistic outlook, which is very important. Also being capable of intimacy, not fearing commitment. In case there is an opportunity to showcase creativity, making use of it, having a perseverance, taking on challenges whenever necessary, taking reasonable risks in order to grow, thrive, can bounce back. That is resilience from adversity, which earlier was talked as well. What is stress? Stress is talked. Different kinds of stresses are there. Eustress, so positive stress and distress. So also there are types of stress depending on the time duration, where if it's for a short term, then it's acute stress. And if it's over a period of time, which is impacting, it does damage our body, which is there. Also for example, chronic fatigue syndrome is also one of the chronic stress.
Okay, I'll log on my phone now. See.
Okay. Someone's talking. Anyways,
sorry about
I'm getting back to it. No problem. I'm getting back to where we were. Okay. So stress response, I think this also was partially covered earlier, where, stress response are of three types majorly, that is flight, and freeze. There's also another called fawn. But I'll be covering only the three responses for today, flight, and freeze. This is mostly seen by the automatic nervous system, which I'll be showing you an image about further. And autonomic nervous system covers parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. It's nothing too complicated. Basically, one parasympathetic is how there is the stress response, and sympathetic is how the stress response is turned off and body returns back to normal and homeostasis. So this is how it looks, pretty contrasting. There is, you can clearly see it's exactly contrasting. So you can look at it. Same things are online available. This is just to understand how our system gets hyper aroused and how the arousal can also be stabilized. Stimulation is hyper stimulated and then, getting into balance. I'll be talking further on the same. Before we get to that, a little bit about the brain, especially since this talk is for more of the teenagers. So I thought I'll include this. By the age of 6, 95% of the brain is formed usually. And this is a growth spurt in adolescence occurs, a growth spurt, which is in the frontal cortex, where the executive functions of planning, organizing, and rational thinking are controlled. So by the early of mid-20s, more or less the mature adult is being formed, where you can see there's a small video which I have shared with Ifi. If you could just play that, Ifi. Can you?
Ebenezer, can you play the videos I sent you and share it?
Let me know if it's difficult.
Yeah,
I'll be
we'll share it shortly now. Otherwise, I can share it. If it gives me control, then I'll share.
If it's going to take time, then I will ask.
You might just want to talk through the video, then we can do it later.
I think he gets it ready because he didn't know when.
Absolutely, not a problem. So whenever they're ready, we'll watch the video. It's a very interesting video just to talk about the same. So further, just to understand how all of us cope with stress. So whenever there is a balance in the balance we see in our life, and any triggers can be through any sense organ. So, a trigger could be, this is very interesting, which I wanted to share actually. Trigger could be from any of the sense organ, could be a particular color that we see or the tone of voice that we hear, which is familiar to the person we didn't like in probably in our childhood in school, or some difficult experiences that we've gone through. Or it could be a smell that there's a burning smell, which probably could remind us. Triggers are basically which are reminders of our previous experiences. Yeah. So even a burning smell, for example, could remind us about what could have happened when we have a craft class that we did or something, or something happened near the house. And even touch, where, any kind of sudden touch from the back could remind of a person who's being abused, for example. So basically different sense organs, the messages that we receive through the sense organs, and how it triggers, that'll be the alarm stage that you see over there. That'll be the first stage, which is the alarm stage, where it triggers and disturbs the balance. And what happens next is resistant stage is a person tries to cope the best way the person can. And the more if you see onto the right here, there is adaptogens and without adaptogens. So a person, if having coping skills, efficient enough for a person to understand how to cope, so the person recovers and it goes upward here. So this is the line which comes up. So the person goes towards the good health. And if the person doesn't have the adaptogens, in other words, coping strategies, so the person crashes and has a exhaustion and it takes a while for a person to cope with. So that is the named here as bad stress, but I wouldn't use the word bad. A person struggles with coping is what I would say. So having coping strategies makes a huge difference there. So coping strategies could be as simple as, I'll give you an example, could be, in a given situation, when something is triggered, can I just take a moment to pause and think, am I really seeing things for what it is? Do I really understand what the whole situation is about? Do I see where the other person is coming from? Any of these situations, and accordingly then respond. But if you're not pausing, you may not be able to process the situation fully, because of which it might be quite of a reaction than a response to a given situation. Okay, this is a very interesting topic and the most interesting I have used in my work. Window of tolerance. So let's say this is a window, okay? So this window represents being balanced, calm state of mind, feeling relaxed and in control and in the zone, being able to function most effectively and being able to take on the challenges, whatever comes up in life. Yeah. So what happens in this tolerance window? This can be, if you look at it, expanded through different ways, whatever works for you as a way to relax. And it also shrinks when you come across different ACEs, which was covered earlier, adverse childhood experiences or any kind of trauma experience that comes across. So then the window of tolerance shrinks here. So what is window of tolerance? Window of tolerance is in a given situation, how much are you able to, how is your response to it? Or how is your reaction to it? So there are two ways to this as well. So there is dysregulation whenever a person gets out of the window onto the top or the bottom there. So the dysregulation when it's moving towards hyper, being excessive use of energy, a person reaches manic state, is overly doing, working, hyper alert, overworking, any of these, and feeling anxious, out of control, feeling angry, increased response, everything is heightened. So in such case, it's called hyper arousal. And the way to get the person or yourself back into the window of tolerance is to expand the window of tolerance. Okay. And now when a person goes really high, like you can see here, when the person goes really high above the window of tolerance, the person usually doesn't come usually back into this window of tolerance, usually goes below. That is, a person usually feels very overwhelmed in the body. So the person shuts down. It's more of the free state. So moving from here, the fight and flight mode to the freeze mode, whereas there is shutdown, numbing, depression, and complete exhaustion. I don't want to do anything, very least response or no response state. So either of the dysregulation, whether above the window of tolerance or below the window of tolerance, to get back into this window of tolerance is the way to expand it. Whenever you're able to recognize that you're shrinking it. So basically, when you know that you're not able to manage and it's going out of control, that's when the shrinking happens. So the way to expand is to manage yourself. And that's clearly shown here in the image, which I put up along with this, just because I feel it's a very beautiful representation. How when you go above the window, you usually go below. There is no activity seen in the window of tolerance there. And only once the window of tolerance is expanded, then a person switches back into this range of functioning. That is here. Okay. So one activity, what I would like all of you to try out right now is take a moment to close your eyes and get in touch with any part of you that feels unpleasant or uncomfortable or anything that feels I would like to sit differently or anything. Take a moment to connect with that. And as you have noticed this part of you, I want you to slowly move towards the part in your body or anywhere around you that feels pleasant. You can keep your eyes open or closed, whichever is more suitable for you, whichever is more comfortable for you. So find something pleasant in you or around you and stay with it to the time that you feel like. Now take a moment, go back to the another experience where you feel pleasant. Could be again in your body or around you. So you can shift from one pleasant experience to another as per what works for you. And now slowly come back to the part of you where you felt unpleasant and just see if the body sensation in that place feels different. So that's about uh, this. This is a form of therapy where it's somatic experiencing is used. Going further, the same thing is experienced in a therapeutic session as well. Let's say with a child here, where a person who's not able to regulate is given an opportunity to connect. So, for example, if I'm working with a child, I need to firstly, be in the window of tolerance. So I can invite the child to join me to be in it. So we can regulate together. If I'm also sensing some anxiety, which I've picked up from the client, so we can regulate together by taking a deep breath and doing the same activity which I spoke earlier. And also later speak about how it articulate and learn this, and also to speak about how the person has felt, which is explained and done here, how the person has felt after doing the activity. So that's just a representation of the same. So this is Maslow's hierarchy. This represents different needs that we hold as individuals. Three, it's divided into basic, psychological, and self-fulfillment needs. So why I brought this in is to introduce how when needs not met results in causing stress, or how we also can call it as perceived stress. Yeah. Perceived stress because what I might consider as stressful may not be stressful for another person. So it's more very individualistic and subjective that way. So any of these, if you feel has not been met, I want you to make a note of it so that you can reflect on it later. Feel free to ask questions at the end if you want to, and if you're comfortable. Also the ACEs, which the previous person talked about, in terms of how the adverse childhood experiences impacts, disrupts the neurodevelopment, it has causes impairment in the development of an individual or healthy risk behaviors. disability, diseases, or an early death as well, and how it's not helpful. And how the same experiences can be worked through the different forms of therapy, which I'll be taking you further into. So this form of therapy is family constellation, which I'm trained in. So so this is used through figurines that you see as doll structures, they're Lego doll structures. So this can also be done in the presence of a group of individuals. So what happens in this form of therapy is this form of therapy uses the electromagnetic field, which is there present in the group. And so, for example, when we look at the group here, it is used as figurines if it's done in individuals. So we use this. So what happens is a person comes and talks about what concern they come with. So the concern is shared with the therapist, and figurines are used to represent parts of the problem. It can be an individual or it can be parts of the same individual. So when I say parts of the same individual, what I mean to say is, so for example, there can be one part of us who wants to go and work out, let's say. And then the other part of us who doesn't know, is like, no, maybe I'll do it an hour later or tomorrow for sure. So there's parts of us. So which is represented there. And it may not always be so many figurines to be used. And the order in which it's kept also is a representation of what goes on in your psyche, that is your mind. So this is how it's used as a way to non-verbally bring out the difficulty which a person generally struggles to voice out. It's the most powerful, very intuitive work, I would say, of working. And changes are made in the movements of order, in the sense the way the figurines are positioned. Sometimes, like for example, if I take on the responsibility, which probably one of my parents had to take up, then I would be taking their position in the family system. So I need to take back my position in the space there, and I need to obey. I think obey is the wrong word. I need to respect the capacity of the individual that holds that space, and also change my position back into being a child of my parents. So that's one of the concepts. And other concept is how we need to honor the different people, how they've contributed into our lives, and the people who have died, and the people who have had traumatic experiences, and how that is passed on to us through generations. I'll be talking only so much with this because I can go on, and it may not help because I need to cover other forms of therapy as well. Okay. Feel free to read up on this. It's a very wonderful therapy form. So, and this is dance movement therapy. Also, you talked as expressive movement therapy. It need not be dance alone. So that's where it is dance/movement therapy. It can just be as like, I do this often. So what is going on in this movement for me? What does that movement show for me? Some kind of stuckness I feel in the neck, for example. And what does that show for me if I'm exploring further with a client? So it could be the stuckness of taking responsibility or standing up for myself or holding up high. So this is just an example that I'm talking about with one of the clients I'm working with. So where we focus on the emotional, physical, cognitive, and social integration of an individual, basically. So what I'm trying to get to with that is certain things which the body remembers and you may not be able to word it. And so, for example, I have another client who's adopted, and he understands cognitively how his adopted parents have really taken care of him, but he has a struggle to feel belonged in the family. There's a kind of a withdrawal and, like, a kind of a pullback that he senses in his body, which he struggles to explain verbally. So we've done a lot of um, family constellation work with him, and as well movement work with him, where he's able to show in the body what he experiences, but he doesn't have an understanding as to where is this coming from. So more of non-verbal information that we can take from an individual to help the individual, because actually non-verbal part is 93% of who we are as humans, and 7% is the verbal communication in which we convey what's going on for us. So that's where I strongly use many of the non-verbal techniques, which you'll see as I go further. So neuro-linguistic programming also is another form of work that I use, where I'm just taking one part of it. That is deletion, distortion, and generalization. These three are the major ways of how we can complicate our life in a way, or miscommunication happens where we delete certain information, because of which there's part of information missing and there is not a complete understanding, or a distortion. There are cognitive distortions lists that you can find where what is there is not understood as it is. Either it's magnified or minimized or displaced. There are different distortions that a person goes through. So these are called cognitive distortions. You can read upon it a little more later. Generalization. So for example, if a person generalizes, say, always you've done this to me, you have never understood. So using the terms like always, never, instead of looking at it more of like, has it really been always, or has it been like, once a while when the person is not in the frame of mind? So these terminologies really help in understanding if you're magnifying your anxiety or if you're minimizing it. I'll be going further.
Yeah, maybe we begin to round up, Priyanka.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So this is play therapy where the objects are used to do the same. And EMDR is another technique, very, very helpful, where the eye movements are used, or the tapping technique, which you see below here, where it's a butterfly movement where you tap alternatively, or the eye movements where it moves side to side or top to bottom or diagonally, as a way to work with trauma mainly and other things. Gestalt, also another approach. I won't be able to go further more into it, but very helpful. Art therapy is another nonverbal form where after the work is done, you can, of course, process it through verbal communication. Cognitive behavior therapy also is understood with 4 aspects: thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations, and behavior that I slightly spoke about earlier of an example that I gave. PAC is a wonderful model that can be used to understand how we shift with in the way we are communicating, or what emotional state are we at a given point of time. So I can be an parent. So if I'm being very critical, like, no, this has to be done this way or anything of that sort. But if I'm communicating from an adult ego state, I think this would be helpful. It could be a way to communicate. From a child ego state is like, you never get what I'm talking about, and more from that. So and there are types of parent and child, which I'm not going to go in detail with. IFS is a form of therapy where I usually use it with the addiction clients and the ones who have self-harm tendencies or extreme state of dissociations as well. where managers, excels, and firefighters are a way to cope from different skills that a person doesn't have. Could be the EQ is low and other things. So when a person develops those skill set, these would reduce, in the sense these are harmful ways for the individual to cope, which a person uses to get back into how he can live a healthy and balanced life. So there are 8 areas of life which impacts your quality of life, uh, which which might be important for us to look at to understand a holistic approach to life. These are DBT4 techniques that is used. Partially, I've done it in the activities we did earlier. Last 2 slides. This would be dream analysis as to how we have certain dreams or certain visualizations that come up to us in our day-to-day life, and how it can represent. It need not be a literal representation of what it comes as, but it can be also an indicator of what you're looking forward to or what's happened in your previous life. Also, it can be as a way to resolve what you're not able to resolve in your awake state. This is used from CAT, cognitive analytical therapy, where reciprocals are used. In other words, opposite parts of what I talked about, the working out and not working out bit, where there is neglecting and controlling. There are 2 parts to how we function and how do we go about it, is one of the concepts in that. And I would like to conclude with, all of us have a chance to work on ourselves and change our life, and with every new day that comes by us. So thank you so much for also understanding the technical difficulties and otherwise as well. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for that insightful presentation on the psychotherapist. I would say psychotherapist aspect or perspective of mental health, especially in relation to stress as a trigger for mental health. Yeah, you actually gave us insights into like the early signs of mental health issues, how you can identify that is kicking off in an individual, and also went for that to explain like the characteristics of people with mental health issues, those eating too much, not wanting to get involved in other things. And also like the sort of response we give when we are under stress, like the fight and flight responses, and also strategies for coping with stress, like taking time to think, when you pause and you have a think about what the problem or the issue is. And then the window of tolerance, how we can begin to gauge when we are within, the mental framework, or when things are beginning to go off it. And also how you mentioned how a person's adverse childhood experience could influence their health and well-being throughout their lifespan, which I think it's very key, because I understand a whole lot of people do struggle with PTSD as a result of what may have happened to them in their childhood years. So that's very, very good to note. And also the various therapies which apparently you seem to offer for people to help deal with these issues: dance therapy, art therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy. And then with the final words, which is a bit encouraging, that every day is indeed a chance for us to change our lives. So just like Tega did mention, there is always a hope. So no matter what the situation is, never to lose hope, because once there is life, there is hope, and there is always a chance to make things better. Thank you very much for that, Priyanka. So I think we would, could you please unmute Priyanka Ebenezer. I think the yes,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so very much for that. And then just to say that those who are watching live on our website and on YouTube, you can drop your questions on the comment box so we can pick them up, because we are now going into the question and answer session, after which we would obviously, like Priyanka mentioned, a number of therapies that would help people to deal with mental health issues. After the question and answer session, we'll take a little bit of the music therapy, which I think a very helpful one for every situation, I guess. And then before we go down to the spin the wheel for the prize. So we're now in the question and answer session. To kick it off, we've actually received one question, actually, and I think it's directed to you, Priyanka. So the question is from Henry Angelo. But just before I shoot the question, just to remind our attendees here that if you have any question, you can either type in the chat box, or there's the raise your hand function in the chat section. So you can raise your hand and then we can unmute you so you can ask questions, or feel free to type in as well in the chat box that you want to ask a question, or you type in the question. Either way, whatever you're happy to do. So once I see your hand raised, then I'll tell the host to unmute you. But if I see the question in the chat box, I will ask it on your behalf. So let's move on to the first question we have already. So it's from Henry Angelo. It says, what relationship does the defective organ, like the kidney, liver, bladder, or lungs, have with someone's mental health?
Yeah. As I was talking about how physical and mental health are interconnected and has impact on one another. So I will not be able to say exact this is what will happen with this person without knowing the person, because it's very subjective. But I can give you an over idea of how a couple of things which I can talk about. So for example, if it's anxiety client or a depression client, usually the thyroid levels and vitamin D, vitamin B12, and also vitamin B6 is impacted when there are inflammations. When a person is not able to cope and has a lot of stress has impact on B6. And also with the lungs and the breathing. So when most of the anxiety clients, what I've observed is the breathing, when there is, when the person breathes in, instead of, take it like a balloon, instead of becoming big, the person actually contracts. There's no expansion of the chest or the stomach region. Usually it contracts. So what is used for anxiety patients would be to keep a hand on the chest and to consciously help them pay attention to, when you're breathing in, expand. And when you're breathing out, contract.
Interesting. Ebenezer, could you unmute Tega? I don't know if you want to add something to that, Tega, if you have anything else to add to that. Could you unmute Tega, because we are now in the question and answer session, and there might be questions directed to her.
Okay, I think she did pretty well. I'm actually in transit, but I think she did pretty well. That's a fantastic answer. I don't have anything to add to it.
Okay. I mean, just to let you know, we are in a question and answer session now. So in case there's anyone directed to you specifically, hopefully you should be able to take it. So could you please, okay, he's unmuted, yeah. Judy, could you give your question?
The other part as well is with the bladder. Also, frequency of urination or urgency of urination also are symptoms of anxiety. So this also is an indicator of the issue that is there. So many of them also the chest, which is the chest region, the heart, the uh, cardiovascular diseases or issues, the concern that come up. Mostly, first round of testing is usually done to cancel out the physiological difficulties a person has. Once the test results are negative, then I usually take up the case because that clearly shows more of anxiety symptoms.
Oh, okay. So essentially, there is a correlation, there is because he's asking whether there is a relationship. So basically, when there is some mental health issues, maybe stress, it could lead to, some defects and the other way around, in defects in the organs, and then the other way around. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that response, Priyanka. Okay, Judy, I think you have a comment, but okay, so let me see if we have any other. There are no other questions we haven't received any further questions, so I would allow you make your comments, Judy.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear? Awesome. Yeah. So I just want to make a comment on the two presenters, and I have to express my thanks. Their presentation is spot on. You see, mental health mirrors your general health. General health mirrors your everyday health. And just like WHO properly defined, health, it's not necessarily the absence of disease. Health is everything. Health is your sleep. Health is this seminar. Health is your family. Health is your happiness. Health is your social circle. The two presenters actually made it critical to understand that whenever you have any issues regarding to your mental health, it's not something you personally put yourself on a spot. And particularly the first presenter mentioned something about her personal struggle. And I want us to remind ourselves that anybody can go through mental health issues. Matter of fact, 99.9% of us, we all are mental health clients until it's diagnosed. So all those headaches, all those insomnia, all those palpitations, they are all presentations of mental health. So the body works as a unit. The second presenter mentioned something about the cardiovascular system. In a simple manly terminology, cardiovascular system simply means your heart and your vessels, the capillaries, the veins, and the arteries. Now, let me give you an example. When you are just walking out from your pouch and you see a lion, what do? You activate your triple F. Fright, fight, fright, flight reactions. You either begin to activate all your adrenaline and cortisol are the stress hormones. So when you see something so sudden, your body begins to react to it immediately. Every single part of your body, your heart, your brain, the blood, the kidneys, the livers, they begin to react by releasing all those stress hormones. So we go through stresses every day. The problem is when we allow those stressors to overwhelm the body. You can overwhelm your kidneys. When your kidneys are overwhelmed, you begin to have polyuria. So you see yourself frequenting the restroom during number 1 and even number 2. That's what happens when you see something and, they say you peed on yourself. They are all adaptive mechanisms. But when you now overstretch yourself, just like in life, it's garbage in, garbage out. So the key word is, when you're thinking about your general health, remember that your general health will mirror your mental health. And everything about you is mental health. If you're not in a very good mental health state, you won't participate in this presentation. Now, there is something the second presenter mentioned, which is very important. We all thrive under tense environment.
I think his video is stuck.
Yes.
If we measure everybody's blood pressure, everybody as at this time will at least have what we call systolic hypertension, isolated systolic hypertension. That's the same thing that will happen when you don't sleep in the night, When you wake up in the morning, what happens? The upper number in your blood pressure will go up momentarily. So when you now internalize your coping mechanism and you're in charge, it will come back to normal. Unfortunately, we want quick fixes. We have headache, we want to pop paracetamol. But that same headache can be attended to by the time you identify your stressors, by the time you play some music, by the time you exercise, by the time you sleep. So this is an ongoing presentation we have to morph out and keep getting better. So I'm so happy. I'm excited. We had some challenges, but we keep coming back. And we had a beautiful presentation from the two of you guys. So I'm proud of you guys. Subsequently, we're going to call you back and we're going to coordinate it better. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to be transitioning to another presentation, but I'm so proud of you, especially the second lady. You know, it's very difficult to kind of talk to a population you're not used to, but you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm sure our attendees are wondering, so who's this Chukwudi? So let me just try and do justice to that as much as I can. And so the person who was just speaking is Dr. Chudi Ufondo. And as some of you may know, he's a maternal and health consultant. He's based in the US. So, and he's a motivational speaker. He's executive officer of Snowspirations Global Health Solutions. For those of you who were with us in the maiden edition last month, he was one of our speakers and gave us an insightful presentation on mental health. So obviously, as you can hear from him, he just wants those who are joining us on this occasion to just get a little bit of what he gave us last month. And then he's indeed one of the strong foundations of Face Youth. So thank you so much, Dr. Chudi. And then thank you for that. And like he said, of course, we'll have a little bit of the music therapy today. Don't go away until you've had it. And also remember, we're going to have the prize, the $50 prize win at the end. So without much ado, so are we ready for the interlude while we get the spin the wheel ready? Just before Ebuka comes, and I think on my own part, I just want to say a very big thank you to our speakers, and on behalf of Face Youth, I want to say thank you to Priyanka and thank you to Taiga for taking our time to come and share with us your wealth of knowledge, experience in the area of mental health. To be honest, I personally have taken away quite a whole lot of things. I mean, we keep learning every day. And for me, it's been like a learning exercise. And I would say thank you so much for being willing to educate others, because truly mental health has been most people try to, live in denial of it, but I would say even the pandemic situation has made it all the more relevant and important that we talk about it, because like he says, is a vital part of our human existence. If your mental health is not in order, there is no way your entire body will be in order. So once again, thank you very much on behalf of Face Youth. We say thank you for the wonderful presentations, and hopefully when we invite you again, you're going to honor our invitation. Thank you very much. So we move on to the music interlude. Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
Kanari.
Hi, Nkechi.
So over to you. Bye, Priyanka.
Yeah. Hi, Priyanka. Hi, everyone. So how I deal with mental stress and how I help others as well is through my music. And I'm so glad we're doing this month after month and we're getting so much better. Thank you so much for all the presenters and everyone who has tuned in. My name is Ebu Kanari. Enjoy. Here's to the ones that we've got. Cheers to the wish you were here but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that were lost on the way. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back hell. Baby, I will ride with you. I know I like for you. I will touch your tippy toes. I will bounce it for you. All the things we used to do. I still remember back in December was the hottest winter. From the sunrise to midnight, the love they enter. That is what I surrender. There is no contender. From the midnight to sunrise, the love they enter. Touch me right now, right now, na, na, na. Do you remember the rain? I wanna tell in the rain. I wanna sing it right now, na, na, na. Touch me, right now, na, na, na. Do you remember the rain? I wanna turn in the rain and let me sing it right now, na, na, na. Yeah, right now, yeah. Yeah, Lord. Yeah. Sing with me now, yeah. Let me adjust this camera a bit.
Feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
Listen. Whoa. Let them move past all there. Their two remarks.
One love.
One question I really love to ask.
One heart.
There a place for that hopeless sinner who has hurt all mankind just to save his own. Believe it when I say one love. Oh, one heart.
Let's get together and
feel alright. I hear the children singing.
One love.
Singing.
One heart.
And some praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. I'm saying, let's get together and feel alright. Listen now, don't worry.
Don't worry about a thing.
Every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry.
Don't worry
about a thing.
About a thing.
Every little thing is gonna be alright. Listen, rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds, it's by my doorstep, singing sweet song of melodies flowing true. I'm saying now, this is my message to you. Oh. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is going to be alright. Listen now, if you're dealing with a little trouble, if you don't feel in the right place, just hum with me. Stir it up, little darling, stir it up. Come on and stir it up. Oh, little darling, stir it up. Hey. Stir it up, baby. Listen now. Stir it up, stir it up. Stir it up. Yeah. I've been blessed, I've been touched. I love Jah so much. They keep fighting me, but I'm not giving up. Many rooms from Zion fill our spiritual cup. Wisdom overstanding will never be too much. Give I protection day and night. From even the pestilence, I'll walk it at daylight. Mama, look from where you're calling. Mama, look from where you're calling. I wanna rule my destiny. Do you wanna rule your destiny? Listen now, destiny. Mama, look from where you're calling. Destiny, mama, look from where you're calling. Yeah, let's go now. For the lovers in the house. Are you ready? I'm stuck on you. Have this feeling down deep in my soul that I just can't lose. 'Cause I'm on my way. Needed a friend. 'Cause the way I feel now, I guess I'll be with you till the end. 'Cause I'm on my way. Mighty glad you stay. I'm stuck on you, being a fool too long. I guess it's time for me to come on home. 'Cause I'm on my way. Oh, so hard to see that a woman like me could wait around for a man like you. 'Cause I'm on my way, wait. Mighty glad you stay. Oh, I'm mighty glad you stay. I'm leaving on that midnight train tomorrow. And I know just where I'm going. I pack up my troubles and I throw them all away. Listen up. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One more. Oh yeah, Otubuegia. Ewo. Jay. One. How you they do today? Bring it out tonight, Jack. My tomato just yeah. I just think about you, oh my little. You they make me they wonder because you love me so tender, daddy mo. But now I am darling because there is so far, baby mo. For a very long time, I've done the shit. It can be like saying a fever. I dey catch it cold. Oh, you not to give. Oh, you're not to give. One more. Oh, you not to more. Hey, yeah. Oh, you not to more. Daddy, no. Abato, you now, woman. Sing this one if you know this song. Let's go. So, baby, run so fast. Come, look your back. Person go die, yo. Person go die, hey yeah. Person go die, hey yeah. If get quasi call you not to bueno. Oh my little cousin, man, let me touch you, let me lean on your shoulder, 'cause it is getting colder. For a very long time, I don't get shit. It can be like saying a fever. I dey catch you cold. Hey, yeah. Come back, darling. Come back.
Oh,
Darling.
wow.
Give me another chance.
Wow, that's wonderful.
I'm so honored here.
Wow.
I hope you
Feels like we just stay on here for longer, but I'm afraid. That was so enriching. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I love you.
Wow, beautiful.
Mental health awareness is very important. Talk to someone, spread love, spread kindness, spread the music.
Thank you, Baby Canary.
Yes.
I wish we could stay on till but then we haven't got the whole day. I wish we had. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I mean, I feel so much relaxed now, and I wish we could go on. But we need to bring it to an end at some point, and here we are. So just before we do the spin the wheel, I want to invite Ify to say a few words before we spin the wheel. Ify is the founder of Face Youth, as we know. So we would like to hear from you, Ify. Are you ready to say something?
I'm ready. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for your patience. I know we started off with a bit of technical glitches, but I'm glad that we were able to sort it out. And I'd like to thank our speakers, Priyanka and Tega. Both of you did an amazing job. And as Dr. Chudi said, we're definitely bringing you back. So this is a monthly seminar, as you all are aware. It's going to be at the last Saturday of every month, except December. We'll have it on the 12th of December because of Christmas break, right? So I'd like to thank all of us for being here. I'd like to thank you for your patience. I'd like to thank you for your support. As we all know, the Foundation for Advancement of Child Education and Youth Empowerment, Face Youth, is an international nonprofit organization with vested interest in fighting poverty, supporting and promoting quality education for underprivileged children, as well as youth empowerment. So some of our programs for young people include youth empowerment schemes, vocational training, and health and well-being. And as part of our health and well-being, we've come up with this mental health awareness and stigma reduction initiative, which we with acronym for MASRI. So the acronym is MASRI, Mental Health Awareness and Stigma Reduction Initiative, because we believe that we should have unashamed conversation about mental health. As Tega said, mental health affects 1 in 4 people. So there's high likelihood that you actually know someone going through mental health issues, right? Or us. So it's important that we have that conversation. And we understand that stigma is one of the factors that stop people from seeking help, especially some of us from ethnic minority background. When you say you're having mental health illness in Nigeria, the first thing people say is that you're mad. So that's why we need to make people aware that it's just like having hypertension, having diabetes, having even migraine and headache. So we need to normalize the conversation around mental health. Thank you so much. So Ebenezer, are you ready for Spin the Wheel? Thank you for your patience. So we're gonna do the Spin the Wheel competition and then play a short video about Mission Love Easter for you. If you joined us on YouTube or live, unfortunately, you're not able to take part on this Spin the Wheel. Next time we'll do it better. Maybe you have a way to get people send us their names. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tega. Just give us 1 second and then we'll close. After the Spin the Wheel, that's it, in case you win.
Okay, I have the names here, so I'm spinning now. So we have a winner. Our winner is Cash.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Interesting. So the winner is the moderator. Wow. Not sure what to say now, but apparently you all can see I'm short of words to have emerged the winner. Ify, I think you're saying something. You're on mute.
I was trying to, Benisa meets me. Yeah, so we have a winner. Congratulations, Nkechi. Our moderator is the winner. Congratulations. Congratulations, Sketch. Wow, that's interesting.
Really interesting. I don't even know what to say. Thank you, everyone.
So you drop your email, although we have it, but drop your email for admin to pick it up. We'll send you an email on how to claim the prize. Thank you so much, everyone. So we've come to the end of the program. Nkechi, do you want to say something, or you want to end it?
Well, just to wrap up the program, just to say thank you to everyone who's joined us in this session. I hope that it was a worthwhile time for you. And thank you, Face Youth, for this opportunity. And I hope to see us again, hopefully, at this next edition at the end of next month, April. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. See you again next time.
Thank you to everyone that joined on YouTube and on our website. We appreciate you. Apologies for the technical difficulties that stopped a lot of people from joining on Zoom. We'll try and sort it out. I don't know why the registration link was giving some people issue, but a couple of people were able to join on Zoom as well. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It's Easter. It's about the risen Christ. 1 in 3 children are living in abject poverty. What better way can we tell them about Easter if not by bringing the joy of Christ's redemption to them? Please join Face Youth and help make the Easter of the Poor special. Donate to Face Youth Mission Love Easter. You can donate through PayPal, www.paypal.me/FaceYouthSCIO, or pay into their bank accounts. Barclay Bank account name Face Youth SCIO, account number 23392686, sort code 202924, or the Zenith Bank account name Face Youth, account number 1014886242. For further enquiries, please send a WhatsApp message to +234 701 9555178. Visit their website faceyouth.org/mission, or at Face Youth Charity on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Face Youth, better tomorrow, one child at a time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye. I'll end the meeting now.